Hi, everybody. Veronica Cole here. We are at the top of the hour, and today is day 5 of the 5-day workshop. We have gone over a lot of information in the past 4 days, and today we are going to go over, well, first of all, let me show you that here is the workbook, Moving Through Loss. And yours would be just like that, which was sent to your email. Check your junk if your junk mail, just in case you didn't receive it, because it might be in there. And this particular booklet contains enough, it's pages for each day. So today we're going to go over our nervous system and what are the ways that energy can support your nervous system. So before we get into that, I'm just going to do a little bit of a recap of what we talked about with day 1, which was defining sacred alchemy. And, without going into too much detail and taking up too much time, we all kind of have an idea of sacred alchemy because sacred alchemy, or alchemy in particular, was something from the medieval times, and it was considered a practice to turn metal into gold. But it was really about a spiritual practice. It was about going through the birth and then the death cycle, which as humans and as anything that is alive, that's plants, um, as well, and even animals, your sentient beings, they can go through a birth and a rebirth, or a birth and a death, meaning it's a symbolic death. And so, sacred alchemy after loss is about alchemizing your loss, the situation, transmuting it with all the various things we have been discussing, and to really to wind up at a transformation. So we spent some time on that. And we talked about the conditioned self. And the conditioned self is the part of us that is our wounded self. This generally is from about the age of birth, but actually in utero. Now, I'm a trained modern psychoanalyst, and so we always looked at things that were in utero as well. But there is new research out there, and as a Kundalini instructor, I also learned this, but I was surprised to hear about this in a more of a scientific basis. Is that we bring in roughly 5 generations back behind us in our genes, and although everyone that has a problem that has a gene, a particular gene, doesn't mean you're going to develop that particular disease, which might be associated with that gene, but it does mean that you have a propensity, right? So, one of the things we want to do is to lower stress levels, because stress is always the first thing that occurs with disease. That is the very first thing that happens to you. You will be suffering from stress, and stress is amazing because we oftentimes don't recognize it, because there is certain stress that really lies in the body that, if it's overt, meaning in other words, where we can sense that we're panicking. We have a sense of being rushed. We know that we're in a high cortisol state. There are different things that will alert you to the fact that you might be stressed out. You've had a rough day at work, and you come home and you just feel completely wiped out. All of these things are stress indicators. And one of the things that I really like to talk about all the time, really, with all of my clients, and always to be mindful of this myself, is the importance of self care. Now, I have had an issue with self care for years. I believe very much in it. I do it to my best to to practice self-care. But there have been times in my life when I was just really full of life. There were things that were going on, and I just let it go by the wayside. But I would pay a price for it. My back would hurt. My back would, in essence, really feel like it was just like it wasn't my back anymore. Um, I would have difficulty sleeping. P.S. For years, I have not had problems going to sleep. And if I do, that to me is a signal that there is something that I haven't looked at or haven't dealt with, because generally I can go to sleep within 5 minutes of my head hitting the pillow. So that's an important thing to understand, is that, we need to get restorative sleep. And if we have sleep disturbance, there's something going on there. So the conditioned self is the wounded part of us. And there are many parts to a human being, but for the sake of time and for the sake of not going into too much here at this time, there is the wounded part of us that from 1 to 7, mostly where we were taking things in like a sponge. And that's where some of these issues could have impacted us. But also, that's a lot of times when we experience trauma, and we could experience trauma in utero. Um, there was something that happened. There was a very bad ice storm that occurred in Quebec in 1998. And I believe that there was it was amazing. It was incredible. I mean, there was something like $5 to $7 billion worth of damage that had occurred. The ice that had formed was like 5 inches deep. Now, if you think about that, normally ice formations might be, you know, even an inch of ice can weigh things down. And in Quebec at that time, where this all centered, it broke wires, so many things. It was like transmission towers, and it did a lot of damage. But there was a study that was done, which I found interesting, which is they found that the children at that time that the mother was pregnant with, when they were born, there are markers that you can take to find out, this is another fascinating thing, that you can discern if somebody is carrying a trauma, or some sort of something that is in the fluid of the child, that will tell them in the urinalysis if this child has been experiencing some sort of trauma. And they found that these women that were pregnant at that time and that gave birth to these children, that these children were born with this. So in utero is also a very important thing to consider if you're planning on being pregnant, or if you are pregnant, that everything matters. And as I talked about the collective unconscious yesterday, which is mostly Jungian, Carl Jung is the one that brought that to the forefront. The collective unconscious is exactly what I'm saying. It is about every unconscious thing that has happened in time. But for the sake of our discussion here, I always want people to know that, what I had learned in Kundalini is that we go back 7 generations in terms of taking certain aspects of our ancestry with us. But in the scientific world, they say it's 5. So no matter what, the point is that we can bring a lot of this with us in the present moment, and we can carry things with us that have been brought to us from previous generations. And then they can become exacerbated here. You may not understand why you have it, And this is important to know as a parent, because your child may be showing you or telling you something that you really need to pay attention to. Parents can lose their parenting instincts, and they have, because many parents have, because of the modern society that we live in, because everything is very quick. There is no time to process unless we make that process happen. Children go to school, they learn things, they're learning to develop certain cognitive skills before they're even ready to learn them. And there is not as much concentration on play. So I know when I was younger, there was more concentration on play, but a lot of that went it just disappeared. And now my daughter went to a Waldorf school, which is really known for paying attention to rhythm, as we spoke about yesterday, circadian rhythm, and the importance of having restorative sleep and having a rhythm in your life. You know, a time when you get up, a time when you eat, a time when you play, a time when you rest. And children oftentimes are not having a lot of these things that children need to grow up and to be healthy adults. And as a result, they don't even have time to feel their feelings. So many people grow up not knowing what their feelings are, either because they are stuck in something where a long time ago they were traumatized, and or it's because they did not have the ability or the time to process their feelings. And when you're a little kid, like, you don't know what that means. You don't know what processing means. But if you're always busy, 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 doing, like many kids are, and I'm not saying it's not great for kids to be busy, because we need our children to have activities. But a lot of this can be way too much and way overwhelming, and we don't even realize it with our kids. Um, we can do things to our children that are just, we didn't mean to do them. We're not bad people. Our intentions are good because we love our children. And, unless a child has endured abuse, the things that have happened, the trauma, it could have come from things that you are totally unaware of as a human being, as a parent. But we need to have our eyes open when it comes to taking care of our beautiful children. So, the conditioned self is the part of us that's wounded. And like I said, been saying for the past 4 days, you don't want a 5-year-old driving the bus for you, because if you have a 5-year-old driving the bus, where do you think you're going to go? Where do you think you're going to wind up? Do you think you'll get to your destination? Do you think that they will end up being able to press the foot pedal, the brake? No. So that's a lot of times where we live. That's in our unconscious. And my work is really about bringing awareness, developing that unconscious into the conscious. And this is not done with any sort of push, but it's done with love and consideration. And, when a human being is ready to grow and they're taking those actions and they're doing certain things within the parameters of a healing setting, these things will come up naturally. And they don't have to be pushed out of us, because we don't want also a person to be re-traumatized because we're having them go through the trauma again, or we're not paying attention to where they are right now. I've had people that were in my practice that just needed to come in, and they just needed to be quiet for a while. They needed to be quiet for several minutes before they would even begin to talk. And I also have had people that have had to come in and they would just burst into tears. So, because that's what they needed to do. So, whatever it is about us, paying attention to those wounds, paying attention to that wounded child, bringing it love. And there are many different ways to do it. And that's what I have been trying to demonstrate for you this entire week, this past 5 days, including today. And this is not really the way that healing works, because it's not fast like this. And I'm not doing all of this with everybody. But these are some of the things that can be utilized. And these are some of the things that will help us to expand. So you're going to hear my little Maltese in the background, because sometimes she does bark if she sees something out the window. So I just want you to know that. We talked about sacred space and creating sacred space because families are factories. We produce things. And as we produce these things, we want to also produce a space in our home or spaces where we can become calm and quiet and reflective. Um, that's so important too because we have to learn these things early on in our lives. And if we haven't learned them, then the family can bring that into the home with creating a sacred space. And we talked a lot about circadian rhythm and a lot about grounding. And now, where we are is now we're at discussing how energy can support our nervous system. So, as a holistic psychotherapist and a body mind coach, I'm very aware of how people are speaking, how people are relaying information, and how certain information is being disseminated, and every part of a person's aspect of who they are comes into play when it comes into doing healing work. Because we're all spiritual beings, meaning, like I said, I incorporate body, mind, and spirit. And when somebody is going through a difficult time, this trauma can be that people have been traumatized by. Trauma is induced by many different things, like I said before. And we may not know exactly what it is, but we do discover certain things along the way that help people to understand that. Because we need to learn how to self regulate. And it's normal to be upset by something, but as an adult, we need to learn certain skills to self regulate, meaning, in other words, to calm our nervous system. If our nervous system is constantly at a high C, meaning that we're oftentimes in this very anxious or chaotic state, or we can't sleep, or we're having problems with food, either we're overindulging or we're not. All different things can arise that can be that can impact how we're feeling on a daily basis. So we need to have our needs met because if we don't, we end up shriveling internally. We shrivel as human beings. We are not thriving, we're just surviving. And I've been in that mode where I was just surviving. And I was fortunate because early in my life, I had a wonderful therapist and I learned a lot from her. But it wasn't just the intellect, the process that I went through was an emotional process. And then, of course, the work that I did when I was doing modern psychoanalysis work and learning, it was all about the process of doing the work. So it wasn't just about reading. It wasn't just about learning about these different models, which I did, but it was also about putting it into practice when we were in our training. So I understand clearly, I mean, how people can experience certain things. And anger doesn't frighten me. We have a real problem in our culture with experiencing or allowing ourselves to feel angry. But there is a healthy anger. And a healthy anger can be expressed without screaming and yelling. That's rage and that's out of control, right? And that impacts our nervous system. But if we have healthy anger, it's where our boundaries have been impacted. And it is something that we can recognize and we can take measures to do that. We can then know that we need to say, hey, listen, I need you to step back, or that's not what I need from you right now, or whatever the things are that impact your boundary. And boundaries is a whole other thing. But the importance of boundaries is because it helps you to stay healthy. It helps you to have more of your healthy endurance and it helps you as opposed to being anxious. And healthy boundaries also help you to live within a place of security because you feel secure and you're also the adult, you're taking care of yourself. So we don't want to shrivel. We don't want to just be in this place where we're recreating our history over and over again, our traumatic history. Um, we really want to be in a place where we're recognizing and acknowledging our spiritual gifts because we all have spiritual gifts. One of the first ones is, compassion, the gift of compassion. When you are in the place where someone is really behaving in a very compassionate way. And if you've ever had somebody that was practicing compassion, you just feel very centered, and you feel a sense of love coming from them because you feel like they're caring, and that sense of caring is actually love, and compassion is another form of love. So that's a very important spiritual gift, being able to be compassionate with another human being is really it's about taking those parts of us and bringing them all together and being a whole person and bringing our whole person to somebody, not just a little piece of us here or a little piece of us there. In order to be compassionate, our heart has to be utilized. Our heart definitely has to be utilized. So, another one of our spiritual gifts is intuition. Now, as you do this type of work, as you're regulating and you're self-regulating your nervous system, as you do things for self-care, and as you practice compassion for yourself, you start to have a greater sense of things in terms of your intuitive abilities. Now, oftentimes the people that I often get in my practice are um, empaths. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of people that are listening to this or viewing this at another time are empaths. And as an empath, you know, you have a very strong sense of other people and what's happening. And as I talked about earlier this week, they have like a broadcast system where you're constantly picking up feelings and whatever's going on with everybody. And a lot of times when people are empathic, they oftentimes have to be very conscious of not being in large crowds for too long, not being overstimulated, because it's very, very easy for people who have a high sensitivity to be overstimulated fairly quickly. So I pay attention to that because I'm an empath. And I know, like I said, I know many people that are listening to this are empaths as well. So you have to pay attention, and I have to pay attention to my nervous system. It's very, very important for my normal functioning because if I don't, I'm very fragmented, I feel scattered, and there's no point in that, right? And I think that's true for children also. Children can get very scattered very quickly because children are very intuitive also. And, when you impose boundaries on them in a very kind and loving way, what you're doing is helping them to feel safe because children feel safe with boundaries. Adults do as well, unless there is something else going on with you, and you really want that person to give you something and they're not giving it to you, or you feel that you're being pushed or shoved out, which may not be the case, but somebody is just imposing a kind boundary. But sometimes people can experience those boundaries as being very harsh. And as I talked about, earlier this week about speech, harsh speech is never going to get us anywhere, but it could make us feel okay for the time being. But in the long run, we're not going to be allowing ourselves to feel the love and compassion that we can feel from another human being or from the world in general. Because if we're harsh That's probably a way that we can often, the place we can often go to. Um, Another spiritual gift is love, and love is the most powerful energy in the existence of this universe. And you probably heard that love heals. My mother was a very, very wise woman in this way. And when my brothers and myself, or when my brothers alone were just arguing, my mother would say, "You have to learn to get along. These are your brothers, or this is your sister, and you have to love each other. Love is the most important thing. And if you don't have love, you don't have anything." So her message was very, very clear. And she would say this often, as even as adults. She really was not one to get into confrontation. And but because of her wanting to be very loving and very giving, she did make a mistake with thinking that receiving that love was okay. She was very, very much about, I don't need to take anything, that's okay. And that was not really the most healthy choice for my mother, because that means that she wasn't able to receive some of the gifts that other people could give, because my mother just believed in only giving. It was a wonderful quality of her, but she needed to be more of the person that also was allowing herself to receive. So, also, another spiritual gift that we have is to listen. Now, I am sure you have been in what appeared to be a conversation that might have involved something that you're going through, and a person jumps in and they are only talking about their experience, about something that you're going through, but they're going to talk about their experience and they're going to hijack that conversation. And it all of a sudden becomes about them. So, what this does is, what do you think? Do you think that you're really being heard? Or do you think that that person is listening to themselves because they want to hear themselves talk about themselves? Um, there's a lot of that. And, it is a skill to develop a way to listen so that, people know that you hear them. And oftentimes, listening requires us to truly be observational and to hear and offer comments when there is a pause or when it seems like it would be natural in the conversation. So a lot of this is this is, remember what I was talking about, the processing that we need to do and the quick way in which we are in our culture. Everything is about doing, getting it done, doing it now. And, it's more about utilizing the intellect and our cognitive brain to accomplish things, which is good. We don't want to be dummies, right? And that's why we have brains. But, but at the same time, we need to slow down. Slowing down is imperative when it comes to being able to grow in awareness and in terms of being able to be there for other people. We need to slow down. I was very guilty of being a very fast person, going through everything. I was a workaholic. I was very invested in getting things done, done, done. I am still a person that likes to get things done. I'm not going to deny that, but I have more of a routine about all of this. And because I like the rhythm of knowing that in the morning I'm doing this, and then in the afternoon I have appointments, and then I'm doing so I give myself space and time. I have time for myself in my sacred space, and I have time for listening to other people and what is going on with them and giving to them as well. There is so much that if I were to go back in history and I could change it, I would do that. But you know what? It makes me who I am right now. So I don't have any regrets. Um, but I have oftentimes thought that, I wish that I could have been a little less uh, frightened when it came to the protection of my daughter because, obviously we love our children, right? But one of my ways of protecting her was that I would make sure that she knew certain things and that she could, and I'm not talking about just saying our address and her phone number and, her name and all that sort of thing, but just kind of telling her, like, there's a caveat in there because if you don't, this could happen. If you don't, this could happen. And there were all these caveats. And I feel like partially responsible for her having some anxiety issues. But she also is working through a lot of them. And although I would say that I was not a person that was riddled with anxiety, I think that, you know, her sensitivity was such that it was easy for her to have been overstimulated by some of my concerns for her welfare. So, when we know better, we do better, right? Yeah. Okay. And when it comes time for me to be a grandparent, I'll be the best one ever, right? Okay. So now we've gone through some of our spiritual gifts. Spiritual vision. Spiritual vision is like seeing beyond the physical. Spiritual vision, which is another gift, is seeing like beyond what a person is going through or beyond where you are, and knowing that there is a complete world out there. It's not just a world of Veronica, but it is a world of, my spouse, my daughter, my beautiful Maltese. It is a world of other human beings doing their best to make it in this world. And if I look at these things as being all these are markers for me to notice and to pay attention to, because I want to be a part of the spiritual vision that other people may have. I want to bring that spiritual element into my life for other people. So I enjoy creating things that allow a person to feel that they're heard, that they're loved, and that they're cared about, and this creates a spiritual vision too. So, the other spiritual gift that we have is wisdom. And wisdom is, that's something that we gain along the way through doing the inner work, because it is the internal work that we do which creates that beautiful sense of, wisdom that we can bring out and give to others. Because all of life, I think, is about doing service, whether it means that, you could be doing something that wouldn't seem like it's service oriented, but the fact that you're a human being and doing whatever you're doing and you're interacting with other people, you're providing service. And your service can be many, many things. But most of all, what it is about imparting compassion, love, and understanding. And, we're all human. Sometimes we're not going to be in that state. Sometimes we have things that our wounded child will get triggered and may set up this kind of almost like a tantrum, really, because adults can tantrum too. But when they tantrum, they're not tantruming from their adult self, they're tantruming from their wounded child. So, because really, truly, life is meant to be experienced in a loving and kind way. Now, we all have our triggers, meaning we all have our wounded parts in us. But because of that, when we see these things emerge, we need to take action and recognize that there is something that we need. Um, I was listening to somebody who was I think he was, uh, I think his mother had him during the Holocaust. And his mother, obviously, at the time, his mother had to wear the star on her to identify her as Jewish, and her parts of her family were disappearing, and she was pregnant with him. And when she gave birth to him, he had taken on a lot of these wounds that his mother had not healed because, first of all, she was in a horrible situation that was not of her doing, and she was doing the best that she can, but it was really creating havoc, and it created havoc on him. So I want to believe that each and every single one of us really can create a life of beauty and joy. We can create a life that is satisfying. And when we're in the part of us that is really feeling like we're not worthy, like there's a piece of us that feels like we're just not good enough, or we're ashamed of ourselves, that's all the messages from our wounded child. And I spoke yesterday about taking a picture of your wounded child. Well, it would be your wounded child, right? But the picture of your child, of you when you were hopefully between 1 and 7 years old, and it could be a little bit older than that. Put it in a beautiful frame and display it somewhere where you're going to see it frequently every day. It could be on your nightstand. If that's something that you like to do, it would be the last thing you'd see before you go to bed. But also, it could be maybe on your kitchen counter. It could be, on your desk, wherever it is. And when you see that, internally say to yourself, I love you. I accept you. I am protecting you. The adult, if it would be me, the adult Veronica is taking care of you right now. I am protecting all of you. We are loving and giving to each other. And you give those messages, and even if they're internal, um, that's fine too. But the point is that you're recognizing that the wounded younger part of you needs to know that you love them, that you care for them. Um, so with that, we will go into the nervous system. And okay, just want to make sure that we're on track with time. Okay, so the nervous system controls movement and balance, and the five senses. Taste, touch, smell, hearing, and seeing. So all of those are controlled by the nervous system. Uh, it controls our movement and our balance. Now, when I had the parasitic infection when I was in India, I was left with a very big imbalance because my nervous system was affected by this parasite. And I had to learn to walk again and to get balance again. And, it has been 5 years, and I've gained a lot of, progress in that time. I still have a little bit of difficulty in certain areas when I'm walking or when I need to utilize and get up. I can get upstairs. I can do all of that, and I can walk around. But if the ground is uneven, I have a little bit of difficulty with that. So I'm still progressing and growing and getting better through utilizing things like PT and a particular with my yoga as well, because there are things that they utilize to balance the brain, which helps to balance my balance, and I utilize all of them. So when you talk about the nervous system, it also impacts your thought processes, because if you've ever been rattled of any sort, you know that your thinking becomes a little bit fragmented, right? And that's normal because that's what happens. How awake and aware you are, that has to do with your nervous system too. So um, we all need to pay attention to our nervous system. It's a very major part of who we are, and it's the vessel that we live in while we're here on this planet, right? While we're in this human form, this is the particular temple that we have, and we need to take care of it, right? It's important because it's all we have. It includes the brain, the nervous system includes the spinal cord, and it includes, you know, all parts of our body. So the nervous system is vital. Um, I also wanted to talk about a little bit before we go into some of these exercises that I'm going to do two of them with you. Um, so we want to talk about connection and the importance of connection. The importance of connection, that's how we identify with other people, is through connection. And the only way we can have connection is by putting ourselves out there a little bit, right? So having the connection with family, with friends, or with people that you feel that you can identify with is very, very important. So, because with connection, we feel stronger, we feel heard. Um, our empathy is greater with connection. And, you know, like I said, we're energetic transmitters, but with connection, we can feel like we're really truly being a part of something, a part of somebody's life when we're reaching out and we're connecting, we're finding out how they are and what they're doing and what's going on in their lives. And it not only it's there's reciprocity, because not only do they feel better, but the person that is doing the giving feels better too. And that's the reciprocal thing about this dynamic. So, dynamic alchemy is the force and power of manifestation, and in Greek, well, it's not just mythology, but the thought in Greece that there were mystery schools, and later there were sacred alchemy schools and sacred academy schools in Egypt, and so alchemy has been around for a long time. The concept of alchemy, and we're just utilizing it here for the purpose of understanding that alchemy is really a spiritual process. So I'm going to do a little bit of an exercise to bring some energy into this process that we're doing right now. So, what I'm going to have people do is I'd like you to rub your hands together very quickly for 30 seconds, and I will stop, and then you can stop as well. And 30 seconds to a minute. And then we're going to cup the hands, and you're going to feel whatever it is you're feeling, and we're going to go up with it, and then we're going to go across with it, but we want to get that energy moving first so that we can understand that energy is, we can create it because we are energy. That's what we are. We're energetic beings. So let's put our hands together and rub them together quickly. Okay, now cup your hands together. Can you feel that energy there? Play with it a little bit. Feel the energy there. Do you feel that cushiony sense right there in your, it's like a ball of cushion. So you have just brought out the energy that you have, and you're creating this feeling and this energy to come out. I think that's pretty amazing. So now that you know that you have done that, you have to understand also that if we're energetic beings, that means that everything that we are, we can heal. And what does that mean? It means that we just have to have the belief system in us to know that every single part of our being wants us to be the best that we can be. The only thing that holds us back is our thoughts and feelings and the lack of expression of those feelings. Because, without expressing your feelings, it is like feelings are an energy. And when we don't allow ourselves to feel them, okay, let me give you an example. Um, if you don't allow yourself to feel, let's say that somebody has done something that made you angry, they uh, did a boundary something, right? Either they were in your room and they took something from your room, or they whatever it is that made you angry, right? But instead of acknowledging the anger, and you don't have to do it like a bully, right? But just saying, hey, why did you do that? What's going on here? I didn't like that, whatever. Um, you just don't say anything. And let's say that this happens again in a different way and you don't say anything. Let's say that you are feeling very sad and you don't want to let anybody know that you feel sad. So you buck up. That's what people would say. People say that to little boys all the time. Just buck up. Little boys don't cry. Little boys don't have their feelings like that, and little girls, stop your crying. Have you ever heard a parent say that to a child? Stop your crying. Well, the child's crying for a reason. So just imagine that all that I have seen kids that parents would tell them that, and they just like, they start sniffing, and they just go, they go into this position where they're almost, it's like it's not that they're comatose, but they become very stiff, and because they're holding in their feelings. So now imagine that you have done this repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again. Where do you think those feelings go? Because the feelings are energy. Where does that energy go? Well, it will go in one of two places. It will either attack your mind, or it will attack areas of your body, and that's where stress comes in. So if you have stress that has been created by lack of, let's say years of not acknowledging your feelings or not working them through, or like allowing yourself to just be, taken advantage of as an adult, let's say, for instance, or as a child that you were taken advantage of. All these things, they're inside of you. Now, most diseases, I think with the exception of, is it muscular dystrophy? I am not sure. Muscular dystrophy is one. But I know that, in my studies, because I worked with a lot of terminally ill cancer patients, and but they have discovered that, there is a profile of people that get these diseases. And the profile is, for the most part, uh, a person who is just very accepting of everything. Um, they are always doing everything for everybody. They don't pay much attention to their own needs because they're busy taking care of everybody else. And they don't express any feelings, much of anything, because that's not what they've been trained to do. They've been trained to just take care of. And a lot of children that grew up in an alcoholic home have this. They end up being little parents to their parents, and it just becomes very natural. So all these things happen, and because energy gets suppressed, it goes somewhere and it doesn't just dissipate. And energy turns into things. Now, I'm not trying to say this to scare anybody, but the point is that you don't have to get anything, but it's important to understand, headaches are a result of, generally, they're a result of some sort of anger, some sort of emotional something. But whenever you feel something in your body that isn't exactly allowing you to have the freedom or the movement, or you're feeling, very oppressed, you have to recognize that there's something that wants to come out, and it's generally your feeling state. So many times, what I find that a lot of the work that I do with people is helping them to know and to understand what their feelings are, because they need to identify the fact that they are having a feeling, because knowing that can really be a great freedom to anybody who is suffering anything. And so, how do you heal? Well, intention is everything, and healing requires focus. It requires, you know, uh, a lot of dedication, I'd say, a lot of dedication. And it's a lot of willingness. You have to want to heal, you have to want things to be better. And we don't heal in isolation. We really heal in the energy and the beauty of other people. Um, where did I hear this? That there was a correlation that was made. In our Western culture, or I want to say our modern culture, really, we see more and more kids coming, really exhibiting symptoms and signs. They have diabetes, they have high blood pressure. I'm trying to think of what the other comment. There are so many diseases that are emerging, a lot of autoimmune diseases in adults that never used to be. Um, and a lot of this is because there is a lack of slowing down, and a lack of processing things, because process is really important. And one of the first things I had to learn to do when I was in analytic training was I had to understand that processing was key to having all my thoughts and feelings, and then to be able to move forward in my life in the way that I needed to. And of course, I mean, I had a therapist that I could talk to about all of this. But the point is, and then the work that I was doing, it was all important in terms of moving forward in my life. I had to be able to know what I was feeling. It was important. So energy healing extends beyond you. I mean, it will definitely change your life, because you're acknowledging the energy that is inherent in you. And circumstances help raise the vibration of the universe. Certain circumstances that you might go through, you can change your life circumstances just by changing the way that you interact with the earth. And remember, we talked about grounding yesterday. Um, if you want to evolve, and if you want all creatures and people to evolve, then you really want to bring your best self to all of that. Uh, and it's also important to remember things like, I'm talking about feelings, right? But when people cry, they release toxins. And what is a toxin? A toxin is something that pollutes you. So this is one of the ways that we can release, and that's why emotions are so important. That's one of them. There's a myriad of ways that emotions are important, but for the sake of time, again, I'm just describing some of these things for you. We're going to go into very quickly into what mudras are. And mudras are subtle hand gestures that give energy and expand it guides energy and it expands consciousness. And mudras awaken your energy body because we have a physical body and then we have an energy body. I learned this when I was in my yoga training, and I learned more about it than we have something like 10 bodies. It's just amazing. In terms of energy, there are more, but tuning into your body, um, you know, it's very important because we have this physical body. And with mudras, mudras are sacred geometry. So we can utilize them very quickly to begin to get relief and begin to feel, you know, a sense of peace and calm, because there are so many mudras and they're all dedicated to different parts of our body or different feelings that we want to experience or different things that we want to acknowledge. So what we're going to do is talk about and we're going to do the Shuni Mudra. Now, the Shuni Mudra is to heighten your intuition, and it's also about developing patience and compassion. So what you want to do is put your fingers together like this, and the tip of your thumb to the other tip of the thumb, and your two middle fingers up. Okay? So now what we're going to do is focus on the heart for about 3 minutes in this position. And you could put it right next to your sternum and just allow yourself to breathe gently and deep breathe. And allow the breath to flow. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your belly and out. Feel the, the rise and fall of your breath. Feel the circular motion of the breath going through the front of you, in your diaphragm, and through the back and around you. Imagine the energy circulating around you. And we'll do a couple more breaths. And relax. Okay, put your hands on your thighs, rub your thighs, look around the room, see how you're feeling, see what's happening in the world around you. Okay. And how did people feel with that? Did you feel the energy going from the front to the back, or did you feel a sense of relaxation? Whatever it is, what did you feel? Because you were actually, you know, this is a Kundalini mudra, and it's putting you in touch with your prana, which is your life force, and your central energy. And it is to awaken your intuition and to deepen it. And also, it is to help with patience. It really helps with all these areas. So, we have come to the top of the hour. I have enjoyed just being here for all of you. I actually wish that we had more time because there are so many things I could talk about, but I had to kind of, put all this together and we had to rush through some of it. Not so much in the activities that we did, but just in terms of the information for processing. So if anybody still wanted to do the homework, there is going to be homework posted there. And if somebody does complete it for all 5 days, you would get a gift card, or a book bundle. So I'm just letting you know that. And the doors are open for my program. And oh, I think that's what I forgot to tell you all. That's right. Now I know that some people have gotten you might have gotten in your email um, the program that I'm offering. I have 3 different programs, but this is the one that I am offering here for moving through loss. And anybody that wants to be a part of this and wants to have further information, you can certainly DM me, put your message down below, let me know that you want to talk to me, and we will be in touch with each other on a Zoom call or on a regular call. And this is a 3-month program. And what we work with is the wounded child. We work with the healing elements of some of the things that we have discussed, but more in detail here. We work on developing consciousness, and that is done in numerous ways, but it's done gently, it's done with love, and it is one of my signature programs. It is one I believe in very much, and I hope that this has been helpful for some of you to give you an idea of some of the different things that can be utilized for healing. And there are many more, but I gave you what I thought was the best that I could give you right now. And thank you so much for being here. And let me know how you enjoyed this. I really am interested in knowing how you enjoyed it and if you would have liked something more or something different. Um, you could have let me know that in the comments. I will read them afterwards and I will comment on your comments. So whatever you leave me, I will address later today after this workshop. And if there's anything else that I can help you with and help you understand, I would love to be able to do that. So thank you. Be well. Thank you for tuning in. And just know that these 5-day videos, are going to remain up until next Friday, and then they're going to come down. So if you want to review anything, or if there's any pertinent information that you want, you can get it there, okay? All righty. Thank you so much. Be well. Blessings.